Ezekiel Kralin wrote, The Mysterious Case of the Vanishing Music. Email correspondence January 14th and 15th. Subject, he left in peace, but came back hollering a half hour later. Date, January 14th, evening. As I descended the stairs, I heard him yell, What's taking you so long? When I stepped out the front gate, I said, Yeah, what's the problem now? I suspected and feared his expensive speaker stopped functioning, and despite how badly he's banged it over the days and walked with it through nasty downpours, he was about to blame me, but as it turned out, it had to do with his smartphone. All my music is gone. What did you do? Here, let me look at it. I did nothing but charge it. He handed it to me, and as I walked up the stairs, I turned the screen back on to find a white window that popped up telling me I need to update my phone. I couldn't swipe it away, but there was a clear button on the bottom right, which I tapped, and voila, the home screen appeared. So I then tapped on the music icon, and up came all his songs, upon which, unexpected success, I turned around and stepped outside to where Deke was sitting at the bus stop. Nothing wrong with it, Deke, I declared while handing it back to him. All your music is there, so enjoy. Nonetheless, he persisted in blaming me, although I tried to make it clear the real problem is he's never bothered to learn the basics of using a smartphone. I walked all the way back from the Civic Center because it wouldn't find the music. What should I do if it happens again? I'm all upset. Just tap the clear button on this window blocking access to your music, I told him. He didn't understand what I was talking about, so I added, sometimes the phone doesn't recognize the extra storage chip, which is a glitch. Just restart the phone and it should clear up. How'd you fix it so fast? What did you do? There was nothing to fix, Deke, I replied. I didn't even get halfway up the stairs before I got your music back up. You just don't understand how to use a smartphone and refuse to let me teach you. You'd rather come back with another excuse to scream at me. You can go now. I'm still pissed at you. Well, you shouldn't be. I did nothing wrong, I calmly replied while petting the doggies. Okay, I'm going now. I hope you have a good night. Next time something like that happens, try restarting your phone before you start screaming in front of my building, please. Then he stood up and walked toward the boarded-up ATM nook and exclaimed that he left a bag of pot around here, and now it's gone. I didn't bother to respond, as I figured he's just cooking up another pretext to berate me. That is when I decided to leave, thinking to myself, what did I say? He rarely allows a meet-up to go peacefully from start to finish. He's just got to ruin it one way or another and make those poor hounds sad and scared. But that's only the half of it, Watson. About 10 minutes later, I looked out the window to see he was still there, now with two other vagrants visiting. One of them I thought was Boulevard Joe because of the similar body type and bald head with a circle of frizzy blonde hair, though I couldn't see his face, so I decided to step out and greet him. But it wasn't Joe, and Deke turned to me, upset about something else. They're doing a sweep of the homeless throughout the mission tonight. They're telling us they got rooms for everybody now, and it's illegal to refuse the offer. No one can live on the streets anymore. Look it up in your computer. Now, I don't know how much of what he was griping about was bullshit. Probably all, I presume, as a cover-up for his outrageous you broke my smartphone drama. Maybe a cop told him that just to fuck with him. I just don't know. However, I told him these homeless sweeps are illegal and unconstitutional, and City Hall is facing a big lawsuit as a result because they're not backing off. One of the indigents visiting with Deke nodded his head in agreement, but Deke fumed on in feigned anger as I pet the pooches to give them solace from their master's scary behavior. And then I stood up and said to him, so you do realize now, don't you, that sometimes a smartphone won't recognize the extra chip and you just need to restart it? What are you talking about? That's not what I'm talking about. Get out of my face. I then crouched down again to caress Flacco and Lucky one more time and calmly replied, you need to stop acting like a shithead, Deke. Stop the drama, please. He ignored me and resumed his conversation with his temporary guests, and I lingered another minute or so and then took off. Now it's been over an hour, and he's still out there, blasting his gangster rap. Not that loud, but enough to be a disturbance. If only he went back to the Civic Center or wherever, anywhere except on my block. The dogs are just sitting there on the cold, damp concrete, as patient and loyal as can be. I guess I'll bring down some cardboard for them to sit on. Okay, I just got back, asking him to tone it down, and he said, all right, and lowered the volume. Flacco was curled up on his lap, and her brother was sitting on a comfy, dry jacket. So I set the cardboard beneath the bus stop seats and explained this is so they won't have to sit on the rough sidewalk should they move from their spots. He thanked me. I pet the dogs and returned hovel. Geez, force them all into housing. San Francisco, please, please, please. the Brindlekin would have a safe, warm place to stay, and I wouldn't be wiping out my bank account over sleeping bags and sweaters. He left in peace but came back hollering a half hour later. Date, January 14th, nighttime. Watson wrote, "This is a huge chronic strain on you." I replied, "Not really. It's a strain, but neither huge nor chronic. Other folks go through much worse, and I certainly have it easy compared to your devoted care for Van's widow and what she puts you through. Others deal with cancer, long COVID, severe disability, violence, rape, and so on." Watson wrote, "Is there any truth to the rumor that they're going to force people off the streets? For the pup's sake and yours, I hope it's so. God damn." I replied, "I think that is possible thanks to the lawsuit against City Hall's homeless sweeps. For the law states if there are not enough beds for the unhoused, they cannot force them to move along or take and destroy their possessions. But if they do have enough spaces, that's a different story. So city officials just might be moving fast to avoid a huge, costly judgment against them. The problem with Deke, though, is he prefers his vagrant lifestyle. But that era is coming to a close, and he senses it. Enough of this bullcrap about how he comes from a hard-working family that never accepted handouts. He certainly doesn't mind taking handouts from yours truly, even though I am subsidized by the government. So glad I didn't hand over that $20 a kind stranger gave me today when he saw me sitting those lovely pups. Too many houseless people play out horrendous dramas and leave huge filthy messes that deteriorate the quality of life in whatever neighborhood they make their stage. Granted, they are a minority among their crowd, but it only takes one screamer to destroy the peace for blocks around. They give the rest of the vagrants a bad name, and that includes Deke. I am only here for him because of the Brindlekin. He is one of the most obnoxious people I've ever met. That is why I cut him out of my life a few years back when he didn't have Flacco and Lucky." He was also upset that Scampy and her, quote, boyfriend, whoever that is, just got a room, yet he still keeps getting turned down. But here I go, taking him seriously. This is all just bullshit he's spewing to be the drama queen he is. But he doesn't get the big picture, that being homeless is not his fault, and there is a better way to live on the streets as well as work the system to his advantage where he'll finally get a roof over his head. I've attempted to explain these things to him many times, but he usually shuts me up before I get more than a few words out. In fact, the only time we've had a good long talk about these things was once, and that was just a week ago, and now we have another homeless meth head living on and off in our building, and one who seems potentially dangerous, unlike my Cajun pain in the ass, and I have to share the bathroom with him. Disgusting fellow, this Carlson, this vodka-guzzling bohemian imposter who brought Scooter into my world. As for our building manager, I haven't seen hide or hair of the doddering prick, but that's not unusual if I don't see him for 3 or 4 days, so I still don't know if that was Kevin carted off to the ambulance last night. He left in peace, but came back hollering a half hour later, date January 15th. Watson wrote, "Oh, I'm aware that my, quote, troubles are trifling compared to so many people's. I'm aware of it every moment of every day, but trouble and the misery it causes, well, like an expanding gas, take up whatever space is available to it. Deke reminds me of a person suffering from Alzheimer's or similar dementia. His ability to self-reflect comes and goes. His words and deeds are alternately pleasant and hideous. He appears to have fits of short-term memory loss, no impulse control, and prone to infuriatingly repetitive behaviors and aggressive paranoia." I replied, "That's it in a nutshell." Watson wrote, "You are in the position of involuntary caregiver because of your absolutely laudable devotion to the doggies, and are the one who must endure the infuriating behaviors." I replied, "Yep, the agony and the ecstasy." Watson wrote, "You are way better equipped than most with your finely tuned philosophy to handle it." I replied, "It works for me amazingly well." Watson wrote, "But I do believe it gets to you from time to time." I replied, "Of course it does. It makes me want to hit the bottle several times a day. The bottle of kefir, that is." Watson wrote, "Revolting." I replied, "A totally inexcusable and despicable situation, but so far, so good. I haven't run into Scooter since that day I let him use our restroom." The pups are warm and dry, ensconced in a large plastic box I brought downstairs, stuffed with a child-sized sleeping bag. Their master is curled up beside them, and all are sheltered beneath that large blue tarp. Fortunately, the rain has been barely a drizzle since they arrived, and the speaker and smartphone were only at half capacity when I plugged them in, so both will be good to go in another hour. Also, the sleeping bag I gave him last night was only kind of wet when he showed up today, but I took it upstairs anyway to dry, and brought down the other one I hung up last night and sealed in a trash bag this morning. When I first stepped out, there was Flacco unleashed, sitting patiently by the front gate. Dick had to call her over so I could open it. When I did, she came right up to me, stood on her hind legs, all dripping wet, with so much love in her eyes as she looked up to me, and I began drying her off with a clean rag. Then I did her sweet brother, after which I set up the box, and they immediately curled up inside it. I know they'd love to rush upstairs and enter my sanctuary right now, more than anything else in their doggy world, yet they'd never complain or grow sad when it doesn't happen. Amazing little troopers. It was funny when I set down the box and lifted the lid with the blanket in it, because Flacco promptly tried to jump into it. I gently pushed her away, but as I was doing that, her brother did leap in. I still had to turn the box on its side and move it below the pitched canvas, so instead of coaxing Lucky back out, I carried the box with him inside, set it next to the shopping cart, carefully turned it over, et voila! Flacco scrambled in to join her sibling. To be continued.